Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a solo podcast coming at you today. We are going to recap the 2018 Ironman Lake Placid race. Those of you guys who follow me on Facebook and Twitter, you guys know the results already. So this is probably going to be a really short podcast. That's my friend Ron's joke, actually. Ron, thanks for that one. But yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. We're going to recap the entire weekend. So hang in there. We'll get to it. As always, you can find this and the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find us on the aggregators, places like Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes. Download that podcast app to your iPhone. Look for Ordinary Marathoner. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a new episode that way. Also got our YouTube channel up and running. I do have to say my daughter, she judges me and my popularity based on my YouTube subscribers, which right now is 23. So 23 people. Got to thank all you guys for subscribing. But any of you guys want to help me out in my daughter's eyes and make me look like a I don't know, more popular guy? Help me out. Go over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Right now, what we're doing, we're putting the podcast up there, basically audio only. We also got a few videos. We got the recap of the Ordinary Marathon from earlier this year. I will say this. We are not photographers at heart. We are not videographers at heart. We are getting used to this. We were going to put a video together for our whole Ironman Lake Placid weekend. We did not take the camera out of the case when we got there. Now, we took pictures with our phones. I don't know if I got enough to really scrounge up a video for you guys. I don't think I do. But, you know, it's just like we're not this naturally inclined. We have to work on this. We have to get better. We do have some things planned for the YouTube channel, I will say. We're going to do a video series. Stephanie is now 23 weeks pregnant. She says officially that that's 6 months. I don't know if that's true because we're in mid-July. The baby's due in mid-November. I don't know. November's the 11th month. July is 7. 11 minus 7 is 4. There's 4 months left. She's 5 months pregnant, right? No, she says 6. Who am I to argue with a pregnant lady? I advise not doing that. So we're going to go at 6. But once she has the baby, she is dying to get back into running, especially after being at the Ironman. And when you're in that environment and you're an athlete at heart, it motivates you. It really wants you to get up. It makes you want to get up and moving. And so she's kind of got the bug now. She's even thinking about potentially either getting involved in triathlon or potentially doing an Ironman down the line. Although I think it would be a multi-year process for her. But, she wants to do a Couch to 5K once she has the baby. And we're going to do that. We're going to do a video series on that, down the line. And, if you're out there and if you're having trouble getting motivated, that's one thing. I mean, you still have time here, folks. You have like half of 2018 to get up and get moving. But we're going to do a video series probably beginning in next year, with her doing a Couch to 5K. And I really look forward to that. I think that's going to be a good way to kind of get us into the video aspect of our YouTube channel. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that, waste your time here. I know we're going to do the recap. You can find us over on Twitter as well at Ord Marathoner. That's ORD Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. I mean, we can get the conversation going on over there, or head on over to our Facebook discussion group called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a closed group. You got to add yourself to it. We'll put you right through. We've had a lot of new members the last couple weeks, so I thank you guys for joining. And, like I said, if you want to be a lurker and just read what other people have to say, that's fine. Or if you have questions, you can ask your questions. Or if you want to just post about your workouts, that's cool too. All of it's good. A really positive, supportive group over there. Runners of all skill levels, be it newbies, guys just off the couch, or we have marathoners, triathletes, we have ultra runners. When I say ultra runners, I want to congratulate both Ramon Burmo and Jen Bergstrom. They both finished the Vermont 100K over the weekend. Ramon said he's done a lot of ultra marathons. He said it was one of the toughest races he's ever done. So, man, congratulations to you, Ramon. And Jen Bergstrom, it was, I think, the first race for her of this distance. And geez, if it was that tough that Ramon went through it, I know it must have been even tougher for you since it was your first race of that distance. So congratulations for finishing that ultra marathon. And it's just incredible what some of you guys do. Moving on to Lake Placid. We left on a Thursday night. We drove up to Lake Placid. It's a 4-hour drive. I do have to thank my friends, Katya and Jeff. Now, we were telling them about this. We were just talking about going up to Lake Placid for the weekend. And, Last year, all I did, I have my Nissan Rogue. It's my soccer mom car. And I laid the seats down and I threw my bike in the trunk and we drove up that way. And that's pretty much the way I travel with my bike. I don't have a bike rack. There's no hitch, so I can't get like a hitch bike rack for the back. And otherwise, you got to get one of those that sort of press against the thing. And the car's a lease, and I don't really want to ding it up. And I don't want to get a bike rack when I can just throw the thing in the trunk. So we were going to rent a car, or I don't know what we were going to do. Maybe, I don't know. But we were telling our friends Jeff and Kati about this. Jeff is sort of an avid cyclist, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you just take my car? We're not going to be around. You can just take it." What kind of friend just lets you take their car for a 4-hour drive just so you can use the bike hitch? And so we did. We did. And Jeff and Kati, I really got to thank you guys. The car worked out great. It was perfect. It drove nicely. And I'm going to return it with a full tank of gas. So, thank you guys so much. I can't tell you what it's, what it feels like to have good friends like that. Anyway, I'm not really going to get into the detail of how we packed. I think we've covered that in other podcasts. But I will say this, when you drive up to a race as opposed to like flying. So if you're flying in from out of town, obviously if you're going on a plane, you have to be very careful about what you pack. Now, when you're driving, the benefit of that is if you think you might need it, just throw it in the car. Extra pair of sneakers, other things that you might want to use. I think one thing I was missing was like a pair of scissors. I really could have used one. And I'm like, oh, why don't I just throw a pair of scissors in the box? And we threw a lot of stuff in the box. Just the last minute. Oh, we might need this, throw it in the box. We might need this, throw it in the box. I think we brought like 10 things of oatmeal because, I use it for race day, number one. And we just thought, like, if we woke up and it was raining and we didn't want to walk to breakfast, we might just want to eat oatmeal at the hotel, eat breakfast at the hotel. We have oatmeal. Perfect. But we didn't use it. I think I used one on race day and that was it. But, it's just nice to be able to overpack on the ride up. Now, the one thing that we did last year was as we were driving up, we noticed a whole lot of racing bikes on cars, right? A whole lot of tri-bikes and things like that. Now, on this weekend, if you're driving up the New York State Thruway, there's 3,000 athletes participating in the Ironman. There are other people driving up there just they want to ride the course. Obviously, you can go on the course the day before. It's going to be in the nicest shape that it's in all year. So people go up, they either ride the course for fun or they ride the course to see if maybe they want to participate in future years. But people are going up there with bikes. And the New York State Thruway is probably the most traveled access road into Lake Placid. Last year, we saw 4 or 5 tri-bikes, and we made a little sign with a little Ironman logo. And as we passed them, we would flash the logo and honk the horn, and they would wave. And it was kind of like a fun thing to do, and it was just a funny thing to do. And so Sam and I, before we went, we drew up a little Ironman sign, and we thought it'd be fun for her to flash the sign to people as we passed bikes on the ride up. And of course, wouldn't you know that on the ride up Thursday night, we did not see one racing bike on the back of a car. Not one the entire ride up. And I can't say how disappointing I was that I drew up this nice little sign and it never really got to be used. And it was kind of sad for Sam that we did it and it wasn't used. So, we'll put it in the back of our minds and do it again next year. But hopefully we'll see somebody. It was a little disappointing. Now, driving into Lake Placid, and I'm going to sort of go off topic here a little bit, but when you are in sort of like this daily life that most of us live, where we get up in the morning and we go to work, and I live in the suburbs, but I work in the city of Springfield, which may not be the biggest city in the world, but it is a city nonetheless. And whether it's the stresses of work or, maybe you have family stresses or financial stresses, obviously the political climate we live in, some people get involved in that, and it moves emotions and gets you, it might get you frustrated or it might get you, and I'm not like, I'm not picking sides here. I'm just saying, just in general, you kind of get in this, we live in this sort of compartmentalized world, and we never sort of see the vastness of what's really out there. And I think driving up to Lake Placid and seeing the mountains and seeing how big it is, how big this world is that we live in, and the greenery and driving by the rivers, the flowing rivers as you go by, it's breathtaking. It really is just a beautiful place to be. And I've traveled, we traveled to Arizona in February, and that's beautiful in its own way. But there's something about upstate New York, and maybe, if you're an outsider and you think New York, you think of the city and you think kind of that's all there is. But I will tell you that upstate New York has some of the most beautiful, natural sort of, I don't know, scenery, I guess, that there is to see. And if you are stressed out or you need a break from it all, I cannot think of a better place to go than to hit like somewhere like Lake Placid and go for a hike in the woods and just get away from it and kind of experience how big this world really is that we live in and how beautiful it can be if we take care of it. And, I am not like one of these nature lover people, but when you go to a place like this, man, that's something that we need to keep and we need to hold. We need to maintain, our natural beauty of places like Lake Placid, New York. It is amazing. And I can't recommend it enough. So, anyway, back to the story. We get there on Thursday night, we check in, and, I think we tried to kind of keep the routine, and there's a benefit to that. We've been there last year. We had a routine. We went through it. We actually, Jim Simcoe and Joe Bartlett had done the race a couple times, and they were friends of friends last year. Now they're our good friends this year. Last year they held my hand all the way through it all. And now this year, having done it, it was like, who needs you? Who needs you guys? But no, I mean, it was great that they did that last year because now we had this routine, and it was just one less thing to be stressed out about. So Friday morning, I checked in. They don't do check-in on Saturday. They make you come in the day before. And it certainly makes sense to space out all the things you need to do so that they make sure that everyone gets things done the right way and no one's rushing or So I do appreciate that they space it out. And yeah, it keeps you there an extra day. But at the motel makes you stay for 5 days anyway. So you're there. You might as well space it all out. Friday morning, we went to check in for the race. And I go there first thing. This is what I did last year, and I'm glad because you missed the line. And, probably was one of the first 10 people in. They go through your medical history, your emergency contacts. They make sure that people are there. They make sure they know your hotel so that if they lose track of you during the race, they know where to go to make sure that you're safe, which is a good thing that they do that. If God forbid someone falls off a cliff on the bike and no one's around to see it, they want to know that you're safe, and it's good that they do these things. So after you do that kind of stuff, you weigh in. Obviously, a moment of truth for me. But what I'm not really that vain about this weigh-in. You talk to the people that are responsible for the weigh-in, the monitors there, and they will tell you that people go in there and they strip down to their underwear, like Mike Tyson weighing in for a heavyweight fight. I know I'm dating myself, but whatever. I don't do that. I've already eaten breakfast. I've drank, water. I have keys and wallet in my pocket, and I step on the scale. Last year I was 209 on that scale. This year I was 241 and change. And there you have it, folks. 32 to 33 pounds, something like that was my weight gain for the year. We've talked about this a lot, especially the last few podcasts, so I'm not really going to get into it too much. But obviously, it's and I'm not approaching it from like a fat shaming angle. What I'm approaching it for is like a confidence angle. And I know that, if I would have looked at a picture of me last year versus a picture of me this year and picked which guy was going to have the better performance, I know to pick the guy from last year. And it's very easy to see. I mean, the pictures are night and day of what I looked like last year to this year. So it affects performance and therefore affects my confidence. But I knew this going in. This wasn't something I wasn't expecting, right? So it didn't necessarily affect me at the time. I knew I was doing this race. I knew what I was getting into. So it didn't really bring me down. This was the realization of what it was. It's a 32 to 33 pound weight gain in 1 year, from Ironman Lake Placid to Lake Placid. So you walk through this, the rest of the check-in process, and, they give you your gear bags and your swim cap and, your bracelet, and you get an orange bracelet if it's your first time. So it's really cool to see the guys who are doing it for the first time. They give you a little swag bag. I will say it's a little light on the swag. I think there was like a Cliff Bar and the Cliff gels. I think that, I don't know if everyone gets the same flavor, but I got spearmint gels, which are just like, No, thanks. No, it's not for me. So I think I ate one just to see what it was like, and it's not good, and I threw it out. But a little light on the swag this year, I will say that. They do give you a backpack, and the backpacks are really cool. And I use them all year. I think we use them to pack, actually, pack our stuff. And so we each had a suitcase, and then we just filled backpacks with stuff. And I think I had like 6 backpacks in the back of the trunk. And now I have another. I have another one. So you go through, you get your chip that they give you that they use you to track. And you just, you have all your stuff, you bring it home. From there, I think the next thing we did was we went to the tent and the expo and the Ironman. They have the Ironman logo stuff that they sell, and you do kind of expect to pay up for it. Sam, of course, we let a 9-year-old pack for herself, and she didn't pack a long sleeve shirt. And it does get chilly at night, so we got her a little Ironman sweatshirt, and we bought it. We spoiled her a little bit. We did get her some stuff, and it wasn't too bad in terms of prices. What you expect, I did buy. I was a little concerned. Now, you do want to be comfortable when obviously you're doing an event like this. You want to race and you want to be comfortable in what you're wearing. I brought down a bike shirt to wear that I wasn't really 100% sure that I would like. So I went to the expo and I bought a double XL bike shirt. Just a Lake Placid one. I didn't want it to be specific to the event. I didn't buy the 20-year anniversary one because I don't know. There's some kind of stigma to someone who's wearing the event shirt. Number one, you can't ever wear it again to an event because it's the actual event. So I got a generic Ironman Lake Placid jersey, which I could then wear, I could wear it 10 years from now and someone would be like, oh, you got a nice jersey. And it's like, as long as I keep it nice, obviously, but at least, it's reusable. If you wear if 5 years from now, you're wearing Ironman 20th anniversary, people are going to, hey, you got that shirt like 5 years ago. You're still wearing it. So that was my thought in which shirt I selected. But anyway, I then went home and tried it on, and even the double XL, it was too tight. It was like skin tight. It wasn't going over my arms, and it just it wasn't fitting. So I was having issues with that. We'll talk about that in a bit, actually. Anyway, so we went shopping, we walked around, we got some lunch, I went to the athlete briefing. So I sat in the athlete briefing last year, and, they kind of like give you a whole spiel of what to expect on race day and anything that had changed from the year before. Last year, when it was my first time, I found that the athlete briefing was very informative. They did miss a few things this year. When he went over some of the stuff, he didn't talk about, like, specifically, and I'm nitpicking here, but he didn't talk about, last year he did this whole thing about how when you get out of the swim transition to the bike, they put sunscreen on you, which is really sort of a nice thing that you don't have to worry about. It's nice not having to worry about it. And also it's nice not having to squeeze sunscreen out of the bottle while you're in transition and put it on. I mean, you're in the water for an hour and a half. You really need to put sunscreen on when you're out. You're going to be on the bike for a long time. You're going to burn the crap out of your neck if you don't do it. So it's nice that they do that. But the thing was that they didn't really mention it in the athlete briefing when I was there. And I'm being nitpicky here. But I do think he has a script. And maybe just glossed over it. But, if you're a newbie and, they do give you a whole athlete guide and maybe it's mentioned in there, but you might not see it. And, if you're thinking like, oh, I got to pack sunscreen, it's just one other thing you have to worry about that maybe you didn't hear at the athlete briefing because he didn't mention it. And I'm being nitpicky here, but, all in all, you should go to the athlete briefing if you're doing these races. It is informative, but like I said, they don't really have I don't know if they necessarily have a script. Although I did recognize that he recycled some jokes from last year too. So he must have some kind of script that he goes off of. Anyway, we did go home. Like I said, I tried on my double XL shirt. It didn't work. It was just not fitting. But we put together the gear bags. I will go through those as well. We'll go through them now actually. So we'll do it one by one. So the first, you have your bike gear bag, right? Bike gear bag. So you're coming out of the swim. You need your bike helmet, obviously your shoes, sunglasses. I wear gloves. What I did is what I wore, I just wanted to be comfortable. I knew that, look, I'm not here looking for speed. I don't need performance clothes. I need comfortable clothes out there. So my bike shirt didn't fit great. The one I bought didn't fit great. So I just went to my ordinary marathoner, run shirt, which is a little loose. And I knew it would probably act like a little bit of a sail when I was out there. But again, I didn't need, I'm not looking to shave seconds off here. I just need to be comfortable. I also I didn't have my tri kit from last year, and I refuse to buy a new tri kit because I don't want to fit in it next year. If I bought a new tri kit at weighing at 230 something pounds, I don't want to be able to fit in that next year. I want to fit in a much smaller one. That's my as for motivation. I just don't want to accept that my current weight situation. I need to lose weight. I need to fit into better, smaller clothes basically. That hopefully next year I'll be able to go to the expo and buy something that fits. What was I going to say? Anyway, so in the transition bag, in the bike gear bag, I have my bike shorts. So basically I wear sort of like these Under Armour shorts underneath my wetsuit, and I come out, and then I put bike shorts over top, and I put my t-shirt over top that. That's what goes in the bike gear bag. And then I have a little Ziploc bag with like little nutrition. I have a thing of salt. Actually, I put the salt on my bike. But I have Advil in case I feel like I need, if I'm going through pain that I need, a little Advil. I have Band-Aids in case I put Band-Aids on certain parts of the body to avoid chafing. And if you're in the water, maybe they come off, right? So I just keep extra Band-Aids just in case. I don't need to bleed from those places. Anyway, then you get, halfway through the bike, you get a special needs bag. And, last year I put a lot of stuff in that bag. One of the things that I think I knew I was going overboard for was I put chapstick in every bag. And it's not even like a thing that I use all the time, but it was definitely overkill as a newbie, putting that in every single bag. I didn't need it. I didn't even use it this year. But for some reason, every time I do a marathon, I go and they give away chapstick, and I have it. And so I use it on marathon day. And I don't know if it really helps do anything, but it feels like maybe it would. So I use it. And I totally forgot to use it this year. I didn't even use it. But it's something, just an example. And I say, look, if you think you might need it, put it in the bag. I know Laura, for example, told me that she uses Q-tips when she gets out of the water, and that someone told her, hey, maybe you shouldn't, what are these Q-tips for? Like, why do you have Q-tips here? You shouldn't have them. But you know what? If she wants Q-tips, let her have Q-tips. What's the difference? Just, you could throw as much stuff as you want in those bags. The more stuff you put in there, the harder it is to find, but if you need it, you use it. And the next bag you get is your run gear bag. So when you come off the bike, now I'm changing out of my bike shorts into regular shorts. I put another shirt in there in case the first shirt was too wet. I put obviously your sneakers, my calf sleeves that I use. Again, in another Ziploc bag full of nutrition and Advil and Band-Aids, all the stuff that I need. I put you get these little single servings of like chafing cream that I put in there just in case there's a spot that I feel like I need a little bit more cream. Or if I just want to double up and I feel like I have time, it doesn't hurt to have these things in there. So, my special needs bag for the run, I put a second pair of sneakers in there because it said it might rain. And I didn't want to be like running around in waterlogged shoes. And I put another pair of socks in there, a dry pair of socks. So it's just these little things that you can put in your bags. So, and that's kind of what I did the day before. Now you bring your bike gear and your run gear bag when you bring your bike into transition, and that's on Saturday. You bring your bike and you check it in. Now I'll tell you, the benefit of having a hotel very close to transition is that on race morning, what I can do is I can bring my bike pump up. I can take or subtract things from my gear bags. I can go and drop off my special needs bag. So you have to kind of walk to the certain areas, which is a little bit of a walk. Actually, before I even started the race, I had already taken almost 5,000 steps that morning, just from walking the gear bags and walking up from the hotel. But all this stuff, it's nice having a hotel nearby because you don't have to worry about forgetting things or bringing things. Everything's close. So I just threw things in transition that on Saturday and figured, if I thought I forgot something, I can just always adjust it on race morning. And I'm going to take a break right here. I think we're about 20 minutes in. And then we're going to kind of go into more race day and things of that nature. We'll be right back after the break. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it, or better yet, leave a review of your own. RaceAdvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I may not have a lot of hair, but I tell you, I know style when I see it. And I know you guys and gals with the flowing locks, you need something functional to keep that hair out of your face when you go on your daily run. And I have just the thing for you. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. And I know what it sounds like, but it's not spelled that way. It's Greecie, girlheadbands.com. They make headbands that are specially designed for the runner to keep that hair out of your face, out of your eyes when you're out there on your daily run. So check them out. GreasyGirlHeadbands.com, Greecie, and find a design that's perfect for you. All right, so we're back from break, and I want to start, I guess, on the night before the race. Now, I eat we ate at a pizza place, and I ate pasta. It was kind of like the most plain pasta I could find, and I didn't load up. I ate like a good amount. You don't want to fill your stomach up too much on race day. It's like the last thing you want to do, or the night before a race. You just don't want to do that. I've learned plenty of times on practice runs and things of that nature that you don't want to overdo it with food. You do want to carb up, and you do want to get some calories in there because you know you're going to be burning a lot and you need the fuel, but you don't want to overdo it. You have to be very cautious. At least I do. And again, that's one of those things that you learn. It's very personal to yourself, and it's one of those things you learn in training. So you definitely need to practice that kind of thing, and it just goes along with all the training is practice what you eat the night before. But I knew last year, the night before the race, I did not sleep. It was my first Ironman ever. And yeah, I was jacked up, and yeah, I might have drank coffee before sleeping, but coffee before sleeping actually doesn't usually affect me. But for some reason on that night, if I slept at all, it was for about 15 minutes. And I just don't even know if I did. I have no idea. I felt like I was up all night. Now, having done a couple of these, I know what to expect, and yeah, it's kind of like a strange thing when you're trying to go to bed, right? So we're trying to go to bed at like 8:30 or so, and Sam and Stephanie are with me because they were going to get up in the morning as well, and they're going to bed at 8:32. It's nice and early. We're thinking about the day ahead, and I could tell that both of them just crashed right away. They were out, they were breathing heavy, they were done. It's kind of a strange thing when you're trying to fall asleep the day before the race, because I'm nervous about the race. I don't know what's going to happen. I know I'm starting. I don't know what to expect. And I'm kind of going over things in my head. And the problem is that if you close your eyes and sleep, that the next time you open them, it's go time. It could very well be go time. And, it might just, those sleeps where you close your eyes and then it feels like you just blinked, but you slept for 8 hours. Like, I fear those sleeps the night before a race, because it's like I'm thinking of the race, I'm prepping in my head, and next thing you know, you close your eyes, you open them, and it's here. So it's almost like you want to fall asleep because you know you need the rest, but you don't want to fall asleep because the next time you open your eyes, it's here. So it's a little weird thing, and I did sleep a lot that night, and I had a lot of the types of sleep where you go to sleep and you feel like you got a full night's sleep, and you wake up and you look at the clock and it's only been like a half an hour. Like I remember opening my eyes, looking over, and it's like 10 o'clock. And then closing my eyes and looking over is like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, getting up and going to the bathroom at 3, and but eventually the day does get there. And I did get a lot of sleep. I just kept going back to sleep. I kept waking up, going back to sleep, waking up, going back to sleep. Overall, I mean, maybe that, I don't know. I'm not a sleep technician, but that REM sleep, I didn't get a lot of that, but I did get a lot of sleep that night. So I felt good about it. Certainly getting more sleep than the year before. And I don't know exactly how much that factors into it, but I do know that I did finish in, 15:55 last year. So, and so I feel like I had a leg up on race day already, because I did get a decent night's sleep. So race day, I wake up and like I said, I go to the transition area, you drop your gear bags, in the two different spots. And then I pumped up my tires and got my number. They write your number and they marker you up. They have people with markers that they write your number on both of your arms, and they write your age on your leg, and I think they put your number on your other leg or something like that. Anyway, it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. It's really neat being out there. I got out there first thing, 4:30 in the morning, and got all that stuff done. And then I went back to the hotel. because it was right there. Now I know that Jim and Joe, their hotel's a little bit further away and they can't really walk there. Just, so they have to get there and they have to get everything done. And then, they wait for the race to start. So I went back to the hotel, which is nice because you get to kind of chill for a little bit. And I did that. And then I met them at about 6:00. Now the race was starting at, when did it start? It started at, I think the pros, so the pro women were there. Heather Jackson was the biggest name that was there. And they went off a little early. I can't remember if there's 6:20 or I want to say it was like 6:20, maybe 6:30. I think, no, 6:20. They went off at 6:20. And then the rest of us go off at 6:40. So we met Jim and Joe at like 5:30, 5:45, something like that. And just kind of hung around a little bit. And then we said goodbye to our families. I hand over your flip flops and whatever you got at the last minute that you don't, it's really nice having family there. When we did Maryland, Joe and Jim and I, we didn't have anyone there for us. So we had to check in all our bags and stuff. And it's just, again, they make it easy to do, but it's just another thing that you have to deal with. So if you do have family there that can kind of take your stuff at the last minute, it works out really well. So, we walked up to the swim start and I put on my wetsuit. Now, I should preface this by saying I didn't do any real open water swimming this year. I wanted to, I tried to schedule it a couple times and it fell through. So the day before the race, the morning before, so Saturday morning, I got up at, 6 a.m. and I went and I swam in Mirror Lake, and there were people there. Just to try out the wetsuit. I swam about 2 or 3 of the buoys that they have out there and swam back. It felt pretty good. The one thing I did was I wore tinted goggles that morning because the sun was out. And I'm glad I did because I couldn't see very far using those goggles in the water. And I do like to see the people ahead of me. And even though the sun could have been out, I chose not to wear the tinted goggles. And I was actually really glad that I took that practice swim the day before for that reason. And the goggles I wore were perfect. They worked out perfectly, which is a little thing, but it does matter. Anyway, so we walk up to the start and we're sitting there waiting. And here I am now in this wetsuit that's a little bit tight. And I didn't know how bad I looked in this thing until I saw some of the pictures. My God. Oh my God. Stephanie saw me in it and she's like, yeah, but it works. It didn't, it didn't feel too tight for a wetsuit. I mean, the whole, it's going to be tight. It's a wetsuit. That's what they do. And I swam fine in it. But I just looked like hell anyway. So we're sitting there at the start and things are starting to go through my head. All right. I still was confident in the swim. I still was confident. Even though I really didn't do any open water swims, and really I didn't do any pool swims in probably the last month because I was so focused on trying to get some bikes and runs in that I didn't do anything in the swim. I'm comfortable swimming. I'm comfortable feeling like I could get through it. Now, the one thing that I did, my fear of swimming is that occasionally I get leg cramps, and especially in the calf or in the like a foot cramp or in the calves. And these things, when they come, they can be so painful. They can be really, really painful. You have to stop swimming. You have to deal with it. Now, it's one thing if you're in the pool to deal with it, especially a foot cramp. You can kind of step on the bottom of the pool and it kind of alleviates some of the initial pain and you can kind of work it out. But when you're in open water, man, you're in trouble. You can be in trouble. So, one of the things that I read, really two ways to sort of deal with these cramps are, one, you take a lot of salt beforehand just so that you're prepared. And I did that. I took salt. Now there's this thing called Hot Shot, which is like a little, I don't know. It's a disgusting drink that you can take and it's supposed to help you with your cramps. I took one of these before the last 2 Ironman races that I did. And I don't know if they kept the cramps away or not, but I didn't have cramps in those races. And I was going to take it again, and I brought one with me. And when I opened it, because I hadn't opened it, it was from a while ago, I looked at the date, and it was almost a year old. It was basically it was not something that I could use. And it was something maybe I should have thought about beforehand. So I didn't take it. I took a little extra salt instead. And I got out, the gun went off, and I didn't know what to expect. I got to tell you though, I felt like I was going to finish. I really did. I was sitting at that starting line. I'm going, you know what? I got this thing. I'm going to finish this thing. I had time last year. I'm just going to take it easy. I can finish. I know I could finish the swim and get out there in 2 hours. I know I can finish the bike in 9 hours, and I certainly can run a marathon in 6 hours, and that'll get me the time that I need. So I'm out there. I get out, the gun goes off, and we get out there swimming, and I'm out there just, focusing on taking nice, efficient strokes. And I don't usually use my legs too much. And I enjoyed the first loop. It's a slog getting around that 45 minutes. That first loop, I'm with people that are my speed, and there was plenty of water, open water there, and I felt good about it. I felt really good about my swim. I got out of the water. Now, towards the end of the first loop, some people were catching me, I think, I think some of the faster swimmers were catching up and passing us. And it gets a little kind of chippy out there when the faster swimmers start catching up to the slower ones. But that's just the way it is, and you kind of have to deal with it. I got out of the water and I looked at my watch at 43 minutes, which is excellent. I finished last year's, I think I was like I think I was just below 125 on the swim last year. So getting out of the water, averaging less than an hour and a half, I wouldn't say it was unexpected, but it was certainly, it was positive. It made me feel really good about that first loop. And because I honestly didn't know. I was getting out and I'm thinking, man, I wonder how much adding all this weight could have hurt my swim. Am I going to get out and look at my watch and it's going to say like 1 hour? Because I really had no sort of frame of mind. I just was kind of, out there swimming as best I could, as efficient as I could. I got out, it said 43 minutes. I grabbed a cup of water and I headed back in. And, I remember going back in and thinking like, oh, I can't believe I got to do this again. But I knew that I could. So there, it was positive. And I just, the second loop got a little sloppy, and there were times where, my thoughts, you're out there for an hour and a half and you're not constantly focused on your actual motions. You're kind of trying to think of things to get it off of your mind so the time passes faster. And so my mind would wander, and all of a sudden I'd then focus on my stroke, and I realized that my cadence is bad. It's not, maybe I'm not pulling through the right way, or I'm not extending my arm the right way. Little things that, all right, you got to refocus. All right, get back into it. Somewhere around halfway through that second loop, my lower body was like sending me signals like, hey man, we're cramping up here. Like there's things going on here that are not good. And with the swim, it's kind of weird. I don't use my legs very, very much. I don't kick a lot, but I get cramps in every muscle. I get debilitating cramps in my calves and feet, but there is certainly tingling and cramping up in my hamstring, in my quad, in any muscle, in my toes even. My toes are feeling it. I don't know if it's the cold water or what, but my toes are getting a little numb. It's just things start to go south. Now, the one thing I did read, and I never really got a chance to put this into practice because I don't do a lot of swim. I didn't do a lot of open water swimming. I did none of it, in fact. So, one of the things I read was that cramping can happen because you don't use your legs enough. And that because your legs aren't moving, they cramp up, especially in the water. That's just one of the side effects. So I started kicking a little bit in the water, and it just felt like that whole second half of the swim that I was one wrong flex or one little motion away from inciting a cramp that might either end my day or, have me grabbing onto a boat or something like that. But I was lucky and I made it through. I made it through the race. I made it through the swim. And I looked down, my time was 1:33. So it was a little bit slower than last year, but I got to tell you, my estimated time, I think I gave someone, my friend Jim, his wife takes pictures, of all of us. She's a pretty good photographer. And, so she asked me all my times, my projected times. My projected time was 1:30 to 1:50, and I got out at 1:33. So I'm very happy with that. And I'm getting out of the water, and now it's probably like a quarter mile of a run to get to the transition tent. But, I got to tell you, one of the sort of underestimated, understated, experiences of an Ironman triathlon for me is this first transition, because there's not a lot of practicing this, right? If you're going out for an outdoor swim, even if you do an open water swim, typically if you're doing a training swim, you're not going to do the full distance, or maybe you will, I don't know. But, so you haven't experienced the entirety of the leg cramping and the things that can happen to you in the water. Then you're getting out, and now you have to run a quarter of a mile. And then you got to get on a bike soaking wet and with cramped legs. And it's different. It's just way different to start a bike after doing the swim than it is to just start the bike on a bike ride. And if you're not near a lake and you're practicing a lot in the pool, then you don't have the opportunity to do this very much. And for me, I did it 0 times. So this time I got out of the water, and the funny thing was I got out of the water the same exact time Laura Stebbins did. She passed, I was kind of walking fast and she was running. I got that godforsaken wetsuit off of me. They have people that strip the wetsuit off of you, and carrying it. She ran by me, said hello. We went into the tent. Now I put one of the other things I put in the bag is a towel, because I try to just dry myself off quickly as much as I can. I'm just one of these people that I just don't like being wet too much going out on the bike. So I dry myself off, put the bike shorts on, put the shoes on, the helmet, the sunglasses, the gloves, take some water, take some aspirin. I ate a bar, and I go out on the bike, and I saw Laura again, getting our sunscreen on. So we had pretty much the same exact transition time, which I'm like, and I know she's in better shape than me. So I'm like, all right, if she's doing it, I'm doing it. Now, last year, you remember, I might have been like 7 minutes faster on the swim last year, but I got through the transition super slow because of the issues with the bike helmet. So I'm ahead of the game here, right? I'm getting out on the bike something like 10, 15 minutes faster than I did last year. And I'm like, I'm banking those minutes mentally, and I'm thinking, geez, now I'm in good shape here. So I get out on the bike, and for those of you guys who didn't know, and it's funny, 'cause some people that were in town, it was drizzling a little bit in town, and there was the threat of rain all weekend. But you go on this bike course, it's 56-mile loop. It's a big loop. And, there are spotty rain showers so all over the place, basically. And, there's something about this transition, and I don't know, getting on that bike and pedaling, you're exhausted. And I should have remembered this from last year, because I remember getting on that bike last year, and the very first thing I thought was, I'm not going to be able to do this. I've never, I didn't practice enough this transition. All my bikes were done just pretty much, free of, just doing anything beforehand, never really exercising before the bike, not being fatigued going into the bike. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to get around this course. That was last year. And I should have remembered that this year, but I didn't. And so now I'm on the bike and really going out of town. It's a lot of downhill for the first, 2 miles or so. And then you hit this river road part where all of a sudden it becomes this first climb that you're going to go up. And I didn't, it's a fault of my own. I practiced a lot. I practiced differently this year, and obviously less. But when I practiced, I didn't really practice a lot of climbing, and I definitely didn't go outside. I went out on the bike path, which is very flat. I didn't go out in the park, which is hilly. I didn't do a lot of climbing. And obviously, I'll tell you, the first thing I noticed when I got on that first hill was I hit my granny gear, which is my easiest gear. And I know that last year I could have pedaled in that granny gear forever. It just was very light, and it just feels like you're kind of just pedaling fast and moving up the hill slow. This year, I got to that granny gear, and I was pressing that lever to see if there was more. It just wasn't there. And I needed to stress a lot more and put a lot more effort into each and every pedal getting up those hills. And the only thing I can think of is that the main thing that had to do with was me adding 30 pounds. And now I'm 30 pounds heavier. And now this is the difference with trying to get 203 pounds up the hill versus 233 pounds up the hill. And I was struggling right off that first thing. And one of the things I noticed is I'm a pretty decent swimmer, right? And there are a lot of bad swimmers out there that are good cyclists. So whereas I might come out, so basically I come out of that water and I might pass on the bike. I think in that first loop, I probably passed like 3 or 4 people the entire loop. I was probably passed by 300 or 400 people. So bike, and I talked about that in Laura's podcast. When I just something's wrong with my bike, and meaning not my bike itself, meaning how I bike. And maybe it's lack of practice, maybe it's lack of maybe I just need to do it, focus on it more intently. But I feel like it's just such a weakness of mine. I just can't handle it. So I'm going up this first hill, and already I'm doubting myself that I can finish. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to get through 112 miles of this crap. Because I know the course, and I know that there's worse hills to come, and including my nemesis, this hill at route, I think it's 86 or 56, 86. It's just, I don't know, it's a hill that's a few miles long, and last year it just destroyed me. And this year they added some elevation to the course, and I knew where it was, and we drove the course the day before, and I wasn't looking forward to getting there. And I knew on this, and I was going up that first, and I saw some race officials off to the side at one point, and I'm like, maybe I should just bag it now. But I wouldn't let myself quit at that point. I'm like, just give it some time. Got through the first aid station, the first climb, and it is pouring, guys. It is pouring. And not only is it pouring, but up that climb, there was wind in your face. Like, look, there was wind in Maryland, and I complained about it, and it was a steady, hard wind, difficult wind that you were facing, like a steady headwind. This was heavy rain and gusty, like strong gusts of wind. One time, I know one time in particular, I felt like a really strong gust of wind that it like forced my bike over. It pushed me over to the side a little bit, which is really dangerous when you're riding, especially if you're riding next to people. And now you're going fast, you're in a race, and now you're hitting this thing called the Keene Descent, which is like the longest, steepest drop in the entire course. And I know my friend Joe bombs down this hill. He pedals and goes down this hill as fast as he can. He hits over 50 miles an hour. You can't on this day. The rain was too hard. I got through that first transition. I'll say this, I did something stupid, which was I didn't put water on my bike, figuring I would get it at first transition. And I meant to, and I forgot. And when I left, I really could have used some water going up that first climb. And I didn't have it, which was stupid on my part, and I do regret it. And I got water at that first aid station, and then right after that aid station, it's pouring rain, and we're heading down Keene. And I did what I did last year, which was I found someone who was being safe, and I just stayed 6 bike lengths behind them. And in order to do so on that day, I had to just squeeze my brakes to death. And I was alternating back brake, front brake, back brake, front brake. And the problem was my back brake wasn't really stopping me very well. It was slowing me down a tiny bit, but I was still gaining speed going down this steep hill. So now I'm more on my front brake than I am on the back. And squeezing that thing to death on the way down, for miles. I did get to the bottom. I saw one girl, she must have had a fall, and she was like walking over the ambulances. I felt bad for her. I don't know if her day was done or not. But I didn't see her actually fall. I just saw that she was injured. It was just dangerous going down that hill. And I think my max speed was like 32 miles an hour. And I don't even think it was on that hill. I think it was later on. But I think Joe had the same experience. Last year he was like 50 something miles an hour, and this year he was like in his 38 or something. Excuse me. You had to be really cautious going down that hill. In fact, when I finished the hill and you make a left-hand turn, you finally get on some flat land, my left arm, the entire arm was just sore. And I had to kind of like stretch it and flex it and get it back. And it was just sore from squeezing that brake pedal to death, that entire drive. Now, it rained a good, I'm going to say 2 hours. And sometimes it was hard. It was coming down pretty hard. Luckily we didn't get any lightning, but man, I've never really ridden in rain, so it's just an added level of stress. But I got to the second aid station, and they were great there. And I pulled over to the side, and I got some nutrition, and I looked at the time, and I was doing pretty well. And all of a sudden, I left that second aid station, and it was like right around mile 20, and I just got a wave of confidence. And I was like, wow, I feel all of a sudden, all of that achiness from the swim was gone. I had worked out of it, and that climb was done. And I knew I had more climbs to come, but I was on this flat land for a while, and I'm like, I felt good. I felt really good. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, 20, and this is the mental game I play with myself too. And we talk about this, I think, on my YouTube video, when I did my ride that day, was I try to mathematically figure out how much I have to go and how far I've gone. And so what I do is, it's 112 miles, but I just round it to 100. And I say, all right, if I'm 20 miles through, I'm 20% done, which obviously isn't the case. And I know I'm only cheating myself, but I figure if I can get to 100 miles, there's no way I'm not doing the last 12, right? I'm going to get through that last 12. So I'm telling myself now I'm 20% done. I feel good going down the straightaway. Now, that next hill is they changed the course this year, and now this hill that I hate on Route 86 is close by. It's the next big challenge. So we make the left onto that hill, and I throw it into that granny gear. Yeah, I'm looking for more gears, but I don't have it. And I'm going up that hill, and I'm feeling kind of refreshed after that straightaway, and I'm actually having an easier time going up this hill than I had going up the first hill, which is less steep. And eventually I reached the top. I reached the top of the hill, and I was like, wow, I still feel pretty good. I still felt pretty good. And now, I'm getting towards mile 30, and I'm like, geez, this is going well for me. Unexpected. It's going well for me. And now we head out to this other new out and back that they changed from last year that I drove up, and I felt it was pretty steep, and I felt I was going to have trouble going through that. And lo and behold, I didn't. Lo and behold, I get through a lot of this out and back, and I feel great. Now, all of a sudden, here I am at mile 40, and I'm still feeling pretty good. And I got 16 miles left. I think, I take it back. It was like mile 36. Because what I remember is I remember looking down and thinking, I got 20 miles to go. And I think I had something like an hour, and I was slowing down a little bit. The pace was a little slower than I felt, but I was doing okay. I was feeling okay, and I was feeling like I could do it. And I could definitely do it in 9 hours. And then we hit this uphill kind of on the out and back portion where you're almost finished. You kind of finished the little out and back part. You're still on Hazleton Road, but it's a little uphill for quite a while. And I start feeling a little pain in my back. And this has been sort of a thing for me. So last year I had the same issue even on flat rides. Somewhere around mile 30 or 40, my lower back starts to hurt and get sore. And it makes me ride really slow. And this year I had one like 50 something mile ride. I think actually it was like a 65 mile ride. And when I finished the last 3 or 4 miles, my back was killing me so bad. And I couldn't continue. Like I almost had to get off the bike for a while and just take a break with 4 miles to go on a bike ride. But I struggled through it. And even though I probably averaged about 10 miles an hour, and there were no hills, it was painful. And then I got out there and I did one last ride with Laura and Amy, and I finished that ride and I felt great. I felt like I could get up and run. And that was really the ride that helped me decide to do this race. Now, it wasn't hilly, but I finished 66 miles and I felt good after it. So I kind of was hoping that I'd experience the same thing. But here it is, mile 38 after doing 2 significant climbs and now kind of a third. And with this climb back you get to this town of Wilmington, you make a left, and it's a climb back into town. And it's not, there's some significant climbs, but not a lot of them. And there's certainly, I don't know, I still think that the one on Route 86 is the worst. And they have these hills called the Bears. There's, they actually, last year I kind of got through them pretty easily, but this year, it was kind of a struggle fest for me. But anyway, I somewhere around mile 38, the back started to hurt. And then, I stopped at an aid station and I told a medic, and she kind of oh, you have a knot in your back. She's rubbing my back. And I'm like, this ain't doing nothing. Like it's not going to make it to the point where I'm going to be able to withstand this for another loop. I'm not getting through another loop. Not at this pace. And certainly if I tried another loop with my back feeling the way it was, I was not going to make the cutoff. So I had choices to make here. And I'm somewhere, now I'm in, sort of in the 40s, mile 40s. And I know I'm going to have to make decisions sooner or later. One of the new portions of the course that they had was this like little white face adventure park that they had you drive in. I think they needed to add like a mile or so to the course at some point. So they drove us into this park, and I'm just thinking, I didn't even think about it when I read about this thing. I didn't even think that it was a big deal. But you make a right into this park, and it is a severe downslope into their parking lot area. Like a severe downslope, which, I can't even, and I couldn't even enjoy it at that point because my back is hurting so much. And all I keep thinking is, if I'm driving down this slope into this park that I know I then have to come out of, I know I have to drive back up this hill. And I want to say that it was though it was a relatively short hill, it was probably the steepest grade on the entire course. So you drive down into this little out and back thing, and you come back on the course, and you make a right back on the course, and you think you're kind of through the hills because you've gone out of the park, but there's just more hill to go. And now I'm struggling, my back's hurting, and and this was where I made the ultimate decision. I looked at my watch, I knew what my time was, I knew what my pace was and what I would need to do to make the cutoff. And I knew I was cutting the cutoff close because I think the cutoff was like 1:30, maybe 1:45 or 1:30. And I knew I was cutting that close, but then to go back out and make the other cutoff, which was like 5:30 for the bike or from the bike to the run, or I think it's 5:45. So they give you like 6 hours and 15 minutes to finish a marathon. My back's hurting. It just stopped raining, I guess. And I just made the decision that I just want to get through this one loop. And at this point, getting through the one loop was going to be a triumph for me. So, I didn't care. And at this point, by the way, like Heather Jackson passed me at like mile 38. And now all the really good men riders are that started at the front, they're starting to pass me on the hills. And it's a little bit intimidating. Like they're lapping me. And it's a little bit intimidating because I just want to be in my little struggle fest world. And these guys are like, and going through an aid station, and I'm driving so slow, and they're driving fast, and they want to get through it, and they want to grab something and go. And I'm kind of in the way, and it's annoying just because I'm not trying to do it on purpose. I'm not trying to get away on purpose, but I know I'm in the way. And so the whole thing was just frustrating. I struggled up those last, and I got to say that even the bears at the end, they weren't. That's the name of the hills. They weren't that, I don't know, for some reason I was able to get up it. There was no point where I felt like I couldn't pedal or I couldn't get through it. I just knew that there was no way I was getting through it again. And I also thought that going out on that second loop and trying that very first climb again, I felt like I was risking permanent injury to do that. And then on top of it all, like I knew I wasn't finishing. I thought I was, risking injury. I didn't want to be in the middle of the course and have someone have to like pick me up and then have my family worry about me. I did see Stephanie on the ride in. I kind of gave her like this look like I'm in pain. This isn't happening. But she didn't know. And basically I made the cutoff by 3 minutes, but I didn't go through. I decided to end my day then. I handed in my chip. I kind of left everything behind. I walked out to where I knew that the group was hanging out. And, I had spoken to Sam before the race, and I said, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to give it everything I got. But there's a good chance that I might not finish today. And she's like, I think you could do it, Dad. And she just said all the right things. And then, I was upset when I saw her because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want her to see me fail. But I did prep her for this moment. And, she saw me coming down, and I still had my gear on, and, I had changed out of my bike stuff, obviously. But, she gave me a big hug, and she was kind of happy to see me. She was just happy to see me, which I was surprised because, I felt like her first thing would be concern, and then she would be disappointed. But she gave me a big hug, and she was just so happy to see me. And I was like, I apologized. I told her I was sorry I couldn't finish. I saw Stephanie, and, she's like, why didn't you go out? And I was like, look, I couldn't do it. I had nothing left. I had nothing left that could have possibly got me through this course. There was just, it was too much. And like I said, I deserve this. It's sort of what I expected. Although I don't know, I got through that swim and I felt so good. And then even at mile 20 on the bike, I felt pretty good. And I'm like, wow, I was even like calculating in my brain and thinking like, all right, with my extra minutes that I banked from last year, maybe I could even beat last year's time. At one point I was thinking I could set a PR on this thing, but even with the weight gain, I did, I had a good frame of mind, and then the back gave out, and my pace dropped off, and the hills just overwhelmed me. And I think that there's nothing more telling than the fact that I would be on the hills and I would click that lever to try to get me another gear, and it just wasn't there anymore. It just wasn't there, and I didn't have the strength to push myself up that hill. So, and there you have it, folks. I mean, it's the same thing I said last year. I need help on the bike. I really, really need to focus on the bike. It's my Achilles heel. It's and even the back pain. Last year I ran into the same thing, and the way I kind of dealt with it was I hired a trainer and we did a lot of core work together. And then during the race, I think last year I did have a little bit of pain, but it wasn't nearly as debilitating as it was this time around. This year I didn't do the core work either. I didn't do anything. I didn't do that. I didn't focus on what I needed to do. It's my own fault. And yeah, and I guess I was more disappointed in myself than Sam was in me, but I did get to kind of take this time to hang out with her and watch the race. We watched the race. I had a moment where Joe was going to run through where we were cheering, and I thought to myself, man, I don't want him to see that I didn't finish. I don't want him to see that I want him to think that I'm still out there competing, that he might see me. I feel like, even the thought that I gave up on the course might be like a negative thing for him to see. And not to mention, I was sort of embarrassed that I gave up. And I kind of had to dig for something to kind of get up and cheer him on. And I thought, and his wife, Michelle, said, he'd really like to see you. And I'm like, I don't know. And I got out and he was running down and he saw me and he kind of looked and he kind of like, he knew it. He gave me this nod like, yeah, we knew this could happen. And he gave me a big hug and I just like rooted him on, cheered him on, and he went on his way. Which was actually, I was super glad that I didn't kind of just hide in the corner and not let him see me. Because, it's good to support your people. It just is. It's good to support them no matter what. And I was kind of glad that I did that. We then walked around for a while. We took a nap. Stephanie and Sam were up early. Obviously, Stephanie's pregnant. She walking around and, the sun did come out. It was a little hot out there. So we took a little nap. We woke up and we walked over to the finish line. We saw a bunch of people finish. We watched Jim finish. We watched him run through. We got right up close to the railing there. And, I yelled out to him and he kind of he gave me this look like, really? Like you gave up? He was a little less forgiving look than Joe's hug, but still, nonetheless, got to see Jim finish. Joe would finish a little bit later on. I actually did not. I regret that I didn't see Joe finish. And we didn't see his friend Ron finish. We did. It was like, and it got to be a little bit later, and we walked over. We had some dinner, and that was kind of the end of my day. Now, I asked Sam. I said, "Did you have fun?" She said, "Yes." "Yeah, Dad, I had fun." I said, "Did you like watching the race?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think you ever want to do one of these later on in life?" "Yeah, Dad, I would love to do one," which is really good for her to say. Even if she doesn't, it's nice of her to see people succeed like this and to do something like this. It's really hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And the next day I asked her, I said, if you were disappointed in me, you can tell me. She said, I just wish I could have seen you finish. So I don't think she was disappointed in me as much as she was just disappointed that she didn't get the chance to see her dad run through the finish line. And I think that was something she would have liked to do. And, long story short, you get the email the next day. Are you gonna, do you want to sign up for next year? And I said to her, I said, Sam, you know what it took, that Daddy trained hard the year that he finished, and you know that he didn't train very hard last year. I said, so you know what it takes for Dad to do this race. I said, do you want Dad to finish next year? Or do you want me to go through that again? Or you're going to have to understand that, Daddy, when Daddy puts you to bed, he's got to go in the basement to train. You can't say, oh, I want you to stay up here with me. I don't want you to go in the basement. You can't. You can't, on Saturday morning when Dad goes to train, you can't say, oh, no, Dad, I don't want you to go on your run. I want you to stay here. You have to say, no, you have to go on your run. And she understood, and she said, Dad, I want you to do it. I want you to do it next year. So at that point, as a dad, what do? There's one thing you do, is you sign up for next year. So that's what I did. I signed up for next year. Now, Sam wants to be my coach, and she's already said that today, it's Wednesday. Today, I'm supposed to do 6 hours on the bike. I think she said I have to do 1 hour in the swim, 4 hours on the bike, and then 1 hour on the run. Now the good news is that I didn't finish it. Because I didn't finish, I can actually go right back into training. I can kind of consider that more of a training ride. And I can go right back into training. I feel pretty good today. Like nothing hurts. My back is a little bit sore still, but it's not anything that'll keep me from working out. It's sort of a normal soreness. So I guess to wrap it up, and the one last thing that I want to say, and I think I have really three things that I want to say. The first thing is I have to thank all my friends that were up there and their families. Jim, Joe, Ron. It was awesome spending time with you, and it's so awesome doing these things. It's just amazing. And the work that you guys put into this, it's really inspirational. It really is. And I haven't known you guys for all that long. I've known you for a little over a year now, yet I consider you guys some of my best friends. So I guess what I'm saying is we go through this thing together, and it's like a brotherhood, and I really appreciate your friendship and watching you guys go through it. It's motivating. It's inspiring. And I know you guys are thinking about taking next year off, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. Although we are doing Mont Tremblant half next year, I appreciate what you guys go through, and I appreciate your friendship. So thank you guys for that. It's just, and if you guys come and watch me next year, man, I'll be. I don't know. You don't have to. Is all I'm saying. Don't feel like you have to, because they said they were going to come watch me, but you don't have to feel like you have to. But it would certainly be nice to have you guys there. Second thing is my family. This experience for me, even though I DNF'd, and I guess I got to approach that topic too quick, but even though I DNF'd, the family support that I had there, the time that we had there, the bonding with me and my daughter, watching my daughter have fun and meeting other kids and swimming and seeing sort of this like athletic lifestyle that people live, as opposed to the suburban lifestyle that we live here, where we're kind of stuck in the house sometimes, and you really have to make an effort to get out, where she plays too many video games and watches too much YouTube and is on the iPad too much. It's nice to see her get out there and be active. And meet people and be friendly. And she was fishing. She caught 9 fish on Monday night. We had like a bonfire, and she was out there playing with other kids, and she caught 9 fish. And I think that one other girl might have caught like 3. And there were a whole bunch of kids fishing, and she really enjoyed it. She was sitting there, really just getting into it and just being there. And it's like a different environment for her. So it was like really touching for me as a dad to see this and to have her experience this. And I want her to do it. I want her to experience it again. I want her to see her dad succeed. And I think that's the inspiration that I got to really, use for next year. And I talk about this a lot. And I don't know that I necessarily, it's the right thing for me or whatever, but, we talked about this, about setting a good example, and how taking this DNF and taking what happened, which I knew it could happen, and then turning it into something positive, which if I can go into training next year with the right frame of mind, go at it hard, and then go out there next year and finish for her, and to have her watch that and experience it and show her how to do it, there will be no more valuable lesson to teach her than that. To have her watch what I do and be successful doing it. So I fully embrace that challenge going forward. We're going to do that next year, and that's going to be the focus. I'm actually, after I do this podcast, I'm going to focus on getting a plan together for next year. The third thing is my ultimate respect for all of the athletes that finish this thing. Man, this thing is a beast. It is an animal, a total monster of an event. And when I was out there at the end of my first loop, and some of you guys were flying by me uphill, you just hear the noise of these bikes going by. It just sounds different. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. And you guys have my ultimate respect. And the one guy that yelled at me as I was going slow through the aid station, I deserve that. But man, there were some of you guys past me, and you said words of encouragement, And I think that that's what this sport is all about, is understanding that even though I'm so many levels below you guys passed me and said, keep it up, keep it going, you got this. Which is actually one of my my least favorite phrases, but it's all meant for support. And I feel like there's so much camaraderie in this sport. Even though, you walk down the street, and it's funny, even the next day, people walk by me and they see that I still have my number written, because it's hard to scrape the numbers off the next day, and I still have the wristband on. And even though I DNF'd, I didn't have scissors to cut it off. I would have cut it off sooner. But people congratulating me, and I had to I don't want to take congratulations that I don't deserve. So I say, I DNF'd, but thank you. And they say congratulations anyway. But it's just, there's so much brotherhood there. It's just great. It's great. And I love the sport. And again, my ultimate respect for you guys who finish this race, whether you finish it and finish in the top few finishers or at the last at midnight. It's a mental challenge, and a physical and mental challenge. But man, to get through a day like that, again, my ultimate respect. And and lastly, the battle of DNS versus DNF. Yes, if you're injured, I would recommend not starting. If you know for a fact that you're undertrained, that you're not going to finish. If you're especially like a triathlon where you're starting to swim, if you don't think you're going to get through the swim, it's one thing that, if you can ride a bike, it's one thing to go on the bike and then fail. If you're having trouble with the swim distance, and it's another thing to drown. So, all right, I get that. Now, other than that, what I learned out of this event was I am so happy that I started. I am so happy that I didn't give up on myself totally. I am, and even at certain points in the race when I felt like I could still finish, those moments were good. Those moments were good experience. And I got to tell you, even those last 10 miles where I struggled up that hill and I knew I wasn't going to go any further, that was challenging for me. And it was a mental challenge that I had to overcome, and it was pain that I had to overcome in order just to finish that first loop. And I'm going to embrace that pain, and I'm going to embrace that mental place that I was at, just to get through that first loop. And as much as I don't want to take credit, obviously, for an Ironman, I'm going to take it as a positive experience. Just fighting through that first loop for me, going forward. I'm so happy, and my coach, Nick Cumbo, I talked to, and he's the one that ultimately talked me into doing the race and just starting. So Nick, I thank you for that. But that's the end result. Very happy that I didn't take a DNS, and that I'll take the DNF. I'll wear it like a badge of honor. I know what it takes to get through this race, and now I knew what it took, and now I really know what it takes. And it takes more than I had to give last year, more than I was willing to give. So, we'll kind of regroup here, set a plan of action, and start looking forward to next year, because I got a lot of work to do, and it ain't going to do itself. And with that, we're going to end this review. We're going to say thank you again to my friends, my family. I look forward to next year. Look forward to another year of podcasts. We're gonna do the review of the race with Laura and possibly Amy Hooper if we can get her on. We're gonna do another recap of their races next week. So until then, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert.